Hello everyone, you have come to Tata Comic Preview channel. Let read together. Have fun. This is an art collage novel video. I made this series so you guys can experience the story faster. The video will focus on the character's psychology, the images are for illustration purposes only. The sudden appearance of the other tribesmen caught the cultivators in the Nether Sect's camp off guard. About half of the 1,000 cultivators stayed on top of the towering city wall to stop the enemies from getting a foothold in the city. At the same time, they activated the mini formations on the city wall to attack the other tribesmen who were trying to invade the city from the air. The soldiers on land fortified the walls and the gates while reinforcing, resupplying, and healing the cultivators on the wall. When the battle between the cultivators was almost over, it was time for the mortals to take charge of the battlefield. The people on the front lines in the wars between nations were usually cultivators unless there was no other choice. This was the foundation of Great Yan's empire. This was also one of the most basic ways of fighting in the cultivation world. When he saw the cultivators dropping above, Zhou was awestruck. For a moment, he was rendered speechless. He mustered up his courage and asked, "Old mister, I wonder if I may ask you a question?" "What is it?" Zhou had been stroking his beard as he observed the battle above them. After the garrisons of Liang Province's city were defeated by the Nether Sect, they could only rely on themselves to repel the other tribesmen. However, this should be within Wuya's calculations. Why did they appear so flustered and powerless? Was this deliberate? "Are you from the Luo sect, old mister?" Zhou finally asked. "Why would you say that?" Of the three sects, the Luo sect is the one skilled in archery. There are many elite archers in that sect. The Luo sect's Patriarch is a peerless archer as well. He once killed a high-ranked beast with a single arrow in Heaven Moat Forest, Zhenghai said respectfully. Fear still lingered in his heart from the arrow shot that he had endured. There are countless elite archers under the heavens. The Luo sect isn't worth mentioning, Zhou replied apathetically. For a time, Zhou was rendered speechless. He felt that Zhou's arrogance was on another level, he even thought the Luo sect was too insignificant to mention. Naturally, he did not dare show his feelings. Instead, he asked, "Old mister, why don't you shoot at the other tribesmen from the skies?" Zhou was a 5-leaf elite, after all. And yet, he could not block Zhou's arrow. In his opinion, if Zhou used all his strength and attacked the leader of the other tribes, it would do a lot to change the tide of the battle. He might be involved in many shady dealings, but he did not want the other tribesmen to set foot on Great Yan's lands. Zhou continued to observe the battle on the city wall. He did not answer the question immediately. If he acted, he would surely expose himself. At that time, how was he going to capture Zhenghai or see Wuya? As usual, he was not in a rush to act. Finally, he replied, "With the Nether Sect's strength, it should be sufficient to deal with these other tribesmen." Zhou dared not say anything else. Little Yuan hugged Zhou's arm. Most of her nervousness was gone by now. She was now curious. She said, "Master, I'd like to have a look." Zhou had the same thought. "Let's go." The two of them hurried toward the city wall. Zhou started. He looked to his left and right. The camp was deserted. He hastily shouted, "Wait for me." Currently, the safest place was being by the old man's side. In no time at all, the three of them were at the base of the city wall. They did not notice it from a distance, but the walls were extremely tall now that they were standing so close to it. They could not see the top of the wall from this spot. If the elites with their avatars were not flying in the air, it was almost impossible for them to witness the interesting battle from within the city. "Old mister, me. Don't forget about me," Zhou said anxiously. Zhou waved his arm. The three of them flew toward the top of the city wall. Boom. 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 Whoosh. 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 The loud sounds of the battle reached their ears. When the three of them landed on the top of the city wall, they were dumbstruck by what they saw. Two avatars, one about 50 foot tall and the other was 70 foot tall, were fighting against the other tribesmen valiantly on the fields beyond the city wall. The Vermilion Bird Hall's first seat, Yang Tan, swiftly increased the size of his avatar and repelled dozens of Roly tribesmen. The Roly tribesmen reeled and spat out mouthfuls of blood as they reeled from the impact. Even so, there were more Roly and Lulan tribesmen on the ground. The Lulan tribesmen were doing their best to cast spells as long as they could. Beams of purple energy shrouded the Roly tribesmen in the air. The battle was too chaotic. Everyone was so preoccupied that nobody took notice of Zhou and the others. The three of them stood at a vacant corner and looked down at the battle from their high vantage point. Shen Liangshou gulped and said, "Even Yang Yan, one of the Nether Sect's 4 great protectors, is this powerful. Just how powerful are the other protectors? You're familiar with the Nether Sect?" Zhou glanced at Shen Liangshou. Shen Liangshou seemed to have forgotten that Zhou was the one who had shot him. He said with a smile, "Everyone knows the sect master of the Nether Sect master is the Evil Sky Pavilion's first disciple." At this moment, Zhou noticed that the Roly tribesmen who reeled from the impact moments ago had risen back to their feet. They were ganging up on Yang Yan. Roly tribesmen are nimble and quick on their feet. They didn't cultivate any of the Buddhist, Confucian, or Taoist methods. They worship the wild wolves and never act on their own. Their avatars are in the shapes of wolves as well. They have a tremendous self-healing ability and are incredibly resilient, Shen Liangshou said. However, the barbarians are barbarians, after all. It's not without reason that Great Yan is capable of intimidating the 12 nations. Zhou stroked his beard and said, "You seem very confident in Great Yan." Shen Liangshou sighed. "My confidence lies with Emperor Yongshou. As for Yongqing, forget it. There are words even the person on top of the whitelist doesn't dare to utter. Old Mister, the blacklist and whitelist don't rank people based on their cultivation bases. My ranking on the whitelist is nothing but a joke," Shen Liangshou said. When he spoke, it could be seen that he thought being on the blacklist had more prestige. The first on the whitelist was merely a 5-leaf cultivator. Swoosh. At this moment, many Roly tribesmen rose into the air. A unique avatar sprung up from the ground. "Master, what's that?" Little Yuan pointed at a huge wolf avatar in the distance. "The Wolf King avatar. Judging from its appearance, this should be a 6-leaf Wolf King avatar," Shen Liangshou replied with a dark expression. At this moment, the Wolf King avatar launched itself into the air. It stepped on its golden lotus, on which 6 leaves were spinning and blooming. Little Yuan asked curiously, "Why aren't there avatars in the form of humans?" "That's strange. They have golden lotuses as well." Zhou said slowly, "Cultivation is built upon the cultivation methods and sutras left behind by the predecessors. The sutras contain the cultivation concepts of various sections. The concepts serve as guides for the mind and will. For instance, if I want to shape my energy into a saber, it will be a saber." He raised his right hand, and an energy saber materialized in his hand. "If I want to turn it into a sword, it will be a sword." The energy saber morphed into an energy sword. Then, it transformed into various shapes before Zhou finally clenched his fist to disperse the energy. It's the same with avatars. However, it's difficult to change the shapes of avatars after they're formed. Usually, its form is fixed in the early stages of cultivation. When the Confucian, Buddhist, and Taoist sects fought for dominance, human cultivation reached a sort of golden era. 30,000 years have passed since then, and cultivation methods have branched out into numerous categories. The 3 different branches gave rise to 3 types of avatars. The other tribesmen who were influenced by Great Yan would cultivate the cultivation methods of Great Yan and obtain a humanoid avatar. On the other hand, those that are not influenced by Great Yan followed their own ancestral beliefs. The Roly tribesmen worship the Wolf King, therefore, they possess Wolf King avatars. "Oh." Little Yuan nodded. "Ding," instructed Little Yuan. Reward, 200 merit points. Shen Liangshou cupped his fists and said, I'm enlightened. Little Yuan continued to ask, Master, are there really 10,000 other tribes? Lu Zhou was not too familiar with this topic. He could only give a general answer. However, to his surprise, Shang Liangshou answered with a smile, Indeed, there are 10,000 other tribes recorded in the books. Liang Province's city alone has tribesmen from all over Great Yan who speak different languages, let alone Rongxi and Rongbei. Throughout the years, they have been assimilated through wars. As time went by, it gradually led to the current state. As amazing as Great Yan? I won't go so far as to say that, Shen Liangshou replied. Little Yuan pointed at the Wolf King avatar in the air and said, Why does the Wolf King avatar have a golden lotus as well? That is, if they hadn't learned Great Yan's cultivation methods in secret. Shen Liangshou was stumped by the question. He had never considered this before. Master, why is that so? Little Yuan's asking too many questions today. Lu Zhou's expression was calm. Fortunately, the skin on his wizened face was sufficiently thick. Nobody could read his thoughts. However, he found it strange as well. Even with Ji Tiandao's rich experience, he found no answer in his memories. If it were the theory of the cultivation methods of the Confucian, Buddhist, and Taoist sects, thoughts supported the spirit and the will determines the appearance of the avatar. If the other tribesmen did not understand these theories, why did they manifest golden lotuses as well? Who could explain this? Lu Zhou stroked his beard before he finally said, Perhaps. It's just like how humans and animals need food for sustenance. They're fundamentally the same. Little Yuan scratched her head to show that she did not understand this. At this moment, the six-leaf Wolf King avatar lunged at Yang Yan's six-leaf avatar. Boom. Energy flowed turbulently in the air, and a strong gust of wind blew violently. Anyone who was too close to the fight was swept off their feet by the wind. Protector Yang, I'll help you. Yu Hong shot toward Yang Yan with his four-leaf avatar in tow. It was now a 2-against-1 battle. The Roly elite fought more valiantly as the battle dragged on. There were several hundred Lu Lan tribesmen behind him. They supported him with witchcraft spells. What a pain! When little Yuan saw the spells, she stomped her feet. She wanted to charge into the battlefield and slaughter the witchcraft cultivators. Lu Zhou said, There's no need to worry about minor witchcraft cultivators. Without a grand shaman like Emoli and Ba Ma, these supporting spells would not be able to turn the tides of the battle. Moreover, this was outside Liang Province's city. There was no huge formation. Witchcraft was not very powerful here. Boom. 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 The Roly elite launched 3 attacks in quick succession. His Wolf King avatar split into 3. 2 of them pounced at Yang Yan while the other pounced at Yu Hong. Yang Yan retreated hastily. He moved his avatar toward the city wall. Yu Hong was only a 4-leaf cultivator. Having been hit by that heavy blow, he reeled. Halfway in the air, he recalled his avatar. That Roly elite is powerful. Little Yuan was shocked. Her urge to charge into the battlefield was instantly quelled. She quickly hugged her master's arm. The Wolf King avatar has great explosive power and has amazing offenses. Yang Yan must have spent too much of his energy before this battle. If this were a fair battle, Yang Yan would never lose, Lu Zhou said. Oh. The problem was, there was no fairness in the world. The archers on the city wall knocked their energy arrows and shot volleys after volleys arrow at the flying other tribesmen. At this moment, a cultivator flew toward the city wall and announced loudly, This is bad, the 4th prince is launching a counterattack from the south. Yang Yan hovered in midair. The city wall was too vast. He could not even see who had made the announcement, let alone Lu Zhou and the others who were standing on the crowded city wall. Yang Yan said, Lu Bing has colluded with the other tribesmen. Notify Mr. 7th of this. Understood. The Nether Sect was instantly put in a precarious situation. They were pincered. At the moment, they could rely on the city wall and the protection of the formation. There was no rush for now. However, if this dragged on, the Nether Sect would surely fall into a disadvantageous position. What's Wuya playing at? The cultivators who were perched on the branches gazed at the Wolf King. Someone cursed, the other tribesmen are insufferable bullies. They're despicable. Although the Nether Sect's on the fiend path, they know enough to oppose the other tribes at least. What's the fourth prince, Lu Bing, thinking by colluding with the other tribes? Why aren't they activating the formation? They can't. The Nether Sect easily conquered this city because the formations have been nullified. If the 6 great generals of the fourth prince are here, the Nether Sect will be in trouble. They continued their discussion. The strongest among them was only in the Brahmin C8 Meridian's realm. They could not be of any help at all. At most, they could help clean up the small fries when the battle was nearing its end. Yang Yan hovered in the air. He frowned as he looked at the Roly elites in front of him. Meanwhile, Yu Hong was not at as high an altitude as he was before. A loud explosion reverberated in the air as he flew back and crashed on the city wall. The city wall was damaged. However, since it was ridiculously thick, it did not crumble. Yu Hong fell to the ground. He supported his weight with one hand as he spat out a mouthful of blood. The Nether Sect had suffered considerable losses. Their opponents were in no better shape as well. Both sides were in a similar state. Yang Yan said loudly. Ha! Luo, the people of Roly have always been subservient to Great Yen. Are you trying to rebel? His thunderous voice resonated through the city wall and the city. The Roly elite. Ha! Luo was also hovering in the air in the distance. He crossed his arms and said disdainfully, to quote the words of your own people, the times have changed. Do you really think Great Yen is weak? Yang Yan asked. If Great Yen was truly weak, the Nether Sect would have long conquered it. Would they have waited for the other tribes to make a move? Lu Bing has promised us 3 of Liang province's 10 cities if we help him take down the Nether Sect. Ha! Luo replied. In other words, could the Nether Sect make a better offer? There were no such things as eternal enemies in the world. Benefit was all that mattered. Ha! Luo's words were loaded. If the Nether Sect could offer 4 cities or more, the other tribesmen would turn against Lu Bing without hesitation. When he heard this, Lu Zhou was slightly taken aback. Lu Bing had been at the borders for many years. Why would he resort to such a humiliating act? The people who lived at the borders were the ones who truly understood how difficult it was to gain every inch of land. Every bit of Great Yan's territory was paid for by the blood of the valiant warriors. How could they give them away this easily? Alas, you're up against the Nether Sect. Yang Yan's sound wave was imposing. Yang Yan, we fought for 3 days and 3 nights, all the way from the barren plains in the west to Liang province's city. You're skilled, I'll give you that. If you know what's good for you, you'll obediently surrender. Ha! Luo's sound wave rolled out. A number of Lu Lan cultivators rose into the air and gathered. They were all cultivators. They did not have any mortals in their troops. There were easily more than 2,000 of them. On the Nether Sect side, there were only more than 1,000 cultivators. The people of Roly and Lu Lan had the upper hand in terms of numbers. Boom. Rumble. The sound of colliding avatars reached them from high above the eastern skies. Every cultivator turned to look. It was too far away. They could only see a brief flash of golden light. Catching a turtle in a jar? Shen Liangshu wondered. Or maybe a diversion? What do you mean? Little Yuan did not understand Shen Liangshu's words. See, Wuya isn't dumb. There's a chance that Yang Yan is only a bait. When the time comes, the Nether Sect will sound a full retreat. The wolf won't leave the city easily once it's inside, Shen Liangshu said. Lu Zhou looked at Shen Liangshu. His analysis seemed to make sense. He immediately held little Yuan's hand and said, let's go. It was better to be safe than sorry. The other tribesmen launched another wave of attack. Some of their men flew up to the city wall. This time, Yang Yan said decisively, "Retreat." Lu Zhou, Little Yuan, and Shen Liangshou leaped off the city wall and flew toward the center of the city at a low altitude. The situation was too chaotic. There were cultivators everywhere. "Master, what about the commoners?" Little Yuan asked. Shen Liangshou shook his head and said, "There's no need to worry." On the first night of the Nether Sect's attack, most of the civilians were already evacuated. This isn't some prehistoric era. The evacuation was done quickly. No wonder we didn't see many people when we arrived. Little Yuan was hit with a sudden realization. The three of them flew side by side as they observed the situation in the city. Although most of the civilians had been evacuated, there were still many cultivators and mortals inside the city. They were looting the residences and establishments while all hell broke loose around them. Shen Liangshou was one of these people. There was never a shortage of such individuals regardless of the era. "Look toward the east." Shen Liangshou pointed east. The cultivators who were watching the show from atop the branches had stopped to witness a shocking scene. Two avatars, both 70 to 80 feet tall, flew side by side. Behind them, a handful of avatars followed closely. The Nether Sect's remaining great protectors. There's a huge flying chariot as well. This is bad. The Nether Sect's retreating. The cultivators leaped off the branches and began heading east. Lu Zhou decided to land as he looked at the three great protectors flying south. They were soon reunited with Yang Yan before they disappeared. Lu Zhou frowned slightly. As expected, that rascal is drawing the enemy in. When an army of more than 1,000 men chose to retreat on such short notice, they were clearly planning something. They looked at the western city wall. The people of Roli and Lulan had entered the city. They were flying slowly in a square formation made out of roughly 2,000 men. They flew at such a speed because they were wary of traps in the city. The witchcraft cultivators flew at the forefront. They kept unleashing purple radiant circles as they looked out for any formations in the vicinity. "Let's go." The battle was now between Lu Bing and the other tribes. "In here." Lu Zhou pointed at one of the buildings in the city. The three of them entered the building. The moment they went in, they heard the sounds of a fierce battle breaking out in the south. The expansive heavenly energy had been unleashed. Didn't the Nether Sect retreat to the south? Why is there a battle now? Shen Liangshou went to the southern side of the building and gazed out the window. He could not help but widen his eyes. Great Yan's army? A lady in embroidered clothes wielded a pink umbrella as she engaged the Nether Sect in a fierce battle. Sister Jingyi? Little Yuan recognized the lady. Li Jingyi? Lu Zhou looked out as well. That 7-leaf female avatar, those shocking moves, there was no doubting it was Li Jingyi. Wasn't Wei Zhuoyan defeated in Yi Province? Why is he here in Liang Province? Lu Zhou remembered Jiang Aijian. That fellow. Is he Si Wuya's bane? The tides of the battle turned again. Li Jingyi's not a match for the four great protectors on her own. The divine capital must have sent 8-leaf elites. It's over. The Nether Sect is done for. Shen Liangshou said. The other tribesmen, Lu Bing and Li Jingyi. The Nether Sect was pressured on 3 fronts. On the other hand, the 4 great protectors hovered in the air. Shen Liangshou's heart raced when he saw this. It seemed like a checkmate to him. Would the greatest fiend sect under the heavens be crushed at the battle in Liang Province? I wouldn't be so sure about that. Lu Zhou shook his head. You don't think so, old mister? If Yu Zhenghai is here, he could turn the tides, Lu Zhou said. Shen Liangshou's eyes widened. Lu Zhou, Little Yuan, and Shen Liangshou looked at the Nether Sect's flying chariot at the same time. Was Yu Zhenghai on board the flying chariot?